The god of death of Sichuan City is the name that the wanderers gave and submitted to the feet of the male lead. Pyo Wol was an orphan wandering around the world. Until he accidentally met a person. Mysterious man, and then things got worse. When he woke up he found himself in a dark, cramped space with only an iron door to escape. Pyo Wol survived many tiring months of trying to keep a cool head and being forced to complete a single assassination mission. If we want to know whether the mission is successful or not, let's watch together. Beginning of the story are flashbacks to the male lead's past. At that time he was participating in an assassination and was discovered to have many enemies chasing him. The incident is becoming very serious because there are also many other groups of assassins are also pursuing Pyo Wol. No matter where he is hiding, we must find him and kill him. The leaders are showing a very dangerous face. If they saw the male protagonist, they would definitely chop him into hundreds of pieces. In the bushes and with characteristic red eyes, this is Pyo Wol. This time the mission is for the main protagonist. Is too much. In the male lead's mind, he understands that these assassins are looking for him to kill him. If he doesn't do anything, he will definitely die. There are too many thoughts to think about. How can I escape from this dangerous place? Those guys keep circling back and forth. If they are even a little careless, they will detect them. The range has also been covered very widely. Obviously, before that, Pyo Wol was just an orphan boy traveling around the world in search of a fulfilling life. At that time, everyone was carefree and no one knew of his existence. Eldest brother. Of course, everything was very peaceful until meeting that person. Usually, assassin organizations always select their people at the age of about 12 or 13. Of course it's that person. Without father or mother, Pyo Wol is very suitable. After sleeping for a long time, when he opened his eyes and woke up, he was no longer in the outside world. The surrounding area is now a cold room. There was only darkness. That time was exactly like I was living in hell. The only friends were animals. In that darkness there are many people who want to help Pyo Wol to survive. Through difficulties that always affect his life, the male protagonist always overcomes them. He must eliminate everyone one by one to keep himself alive. Be safe. In addition to cruel people, there are also some good people who always help. Of course, in such a harsh environment, you will definitely have to change. That change must follow the exact path that veteran assassins have outlined. No longer is he a carefree and happy boy, instead, an extremely powerful assassin is being created. Going back to the previous story, those assassins found Pyo Wol. They were armed, just waiting for orders. Facing death is quite normal for people. A life as an assassin. If you don't die, then the other group will definitely die or vice versa. Pyo Wol silently said that if he could only keep his life, he would definitely come back and eliminate all of these people. Everything that had to be said well started when Pyo Wol was wandering around begging on the streets. This place it's crowded with people doing business enthusiastically. Today is quite lucky because I beg a lot. Today's harvest is equal to the day, so I'm sure the subsidy will be opened, right? Feeling very happy with what he has, the male lead calculates that he needs to find a place to sleep first. He is an orphan without a father or mother who wanders around the world without any refuge. Because it was his first time coming here, Pyo Wol seemed strange and didn't know where to go. Then no matter what happened, a strange man stood right there. In front of him. From appearance to demeanor, Pyo Wol had goosebumps at that time. The innocent face of a 14-year-old child just unconsciously asking who the other person was. Feeling that this was a quite satisfactory object, this person immediately showed an indifferent smile. Just like that, Pyo Wol was defeated and taken to some unknown place. After rubbing his eyes for a few every time, the boy told himself that he was caught in a corner. His eyes kept trying to turn around because it was so dark that he couldn't see anything. The male lead thought he was blind. Because this place is so dark that not a single ray of light penetrates. In his mind there are countless questions about where this place is and what their purpose is. Then after regaining consciousness, pain started to come. Pyo Wol's whole body couldn't move, it was like she was exhausted. Without relatives, no one would have noticed this disappearance. Tears of pain thinking about those extremely happy days. The freedom to do what you like is definitely something that has come a long way. Change has made a 14-year-old boy now have so many plans. I met a stranger on the street just now, is it all because of him? I think that I being locked up in this place is definitely related to that person. I don't know his full name or body why he locked me up here. Besides, I haven't made any enemies with anyone. Surely there must be some purpose for this person to do that to Pyo Wol. To comfort himself, the male protagonist tries to remember his late parents. Actually, even if I think about good things, things cannot change. Have I lost my mind or am I still sane? How much time has passed? In that deep darkness, fear and loneliness always accompany Pyo Wol. He tries to remember his full name to keep his state of mind as comfortable as possible. Other than that, regardless of that, there's still one very important thing: food. With my hungry stomach, how can I survive here? That hunger and madness will be one of two things that Pyo Wol must choose. For the time being, he thinks that the other person definitely wants to starve him to death. What am I doing wrong? Have you ever asked him for a bowl of rice or dime? Pyo Wol feels unfair because his fate is already miserable and now he suffers like this. Even if I'm a normal person, there's no reason to be thrown into a place like that. Hell like this. After those thoughts, suddenly each of his fingers gradually began to move again. Surely the effects of the anesthetic were gradually wearing off. Right now the remaining organs were also starting to move. Gradually feel. There is only one thing that is not being able to see everything. With that, the male protagonist must use other senses. He feels that the prison cell this place is so dark and musty that it's uncomfortable. Not only that, the floor is very cold and flat. In my head, I think this place definitely seems to be a basement of some house. Fortunately, in another corner, the gurgling sound of water rang out. It kept clicking in his ears, making Pyo Wol aware. More and more sounds rang out as if urging the male protagonist. My body has asked for more water right now. It's easy to say, but doing it is another thing. My legs are the most painful and tired like that because they don't listen. His shoulders were sore and Pyo Wol tried to move a little. After a while he couldn't breathe. The male lead gritted his teeth and crawled to where he felt there was water to drink. His whole body felt like is reacting against the mind. To put it more clearly, it is impossible to control. The sound of gasping for breath becomes more and more frequent, and in Pyo Wol's mind he tells himself that he needs to do it. Also from that thought, everything started to gradually go according to his wishes. Being too hungry and too tired created a very strong motivation for Pyo Wol. In that deep night he tried to gradually move towards the place where the puddle was. It was difficult because the male lead's pale face fell completely into the puddle. His hands felt that the foundation of both walls of the prison were made of stone and relatively sturdy. There are some gaps and Pyo Wol tries to pry them open. However, this is an extremely crazy thing to do if you want to escape from here. It doesn't work at all, but also caused an injury to his finger. And the male lead lay down again, sighing and tears falling unconsciously. Really, right now he was too helpless because he couldn't do anything. After a while, his body became tired and Pyo Wol gradually fell into a coma. Meanwhile, a sound of footsteps walked around his body. Then his eyes slowly opened and looked up. This is not real and it's all an illusion created by the mind. No need to be curious, this is just Pyo Wol's mind and it thinks that the male lead is being too stubborn. It seems that only a dying person can see this. The shadow continues to speak even though he can't open his mouth. It's funny why you have to suffer when you regret your life like a pile of shit. After saying that, he sat right in front of the male lead and asked him to give up. I'm sure that if you give up, you will feel better. As for the two words comfortable, Pyo Wol really wants to have it. Only the way to get it is probably very difficult. When asked if doing this would be comfortable, the male lead said it wasn't. He was quite sure he would survive to leave here. Was that shadow or his mind? Your mind is the opposite and that is impossible. If I die like that, it would be a pity. If I die before I can stab a knife into the prisoner like this, I won't be able to close my eyes. I will live cruelly and will take revenge on everyone who has made himself suffer like this. One thing is certain, with what he has been through, Pyo Wol cannot endure his anger. Will you really take revenge and won't give up? Pyo Wol shouted and affirmed that it will come true. So understanding the problem, he has successfully overcome his fear. Tough. After those sharp words, My eyes are now really open. I can't see anything. What was the dream just now, or am I really going crazy? Forget it for now. With those thoughts, my body has now stabilized. Even though I can't see it, my hands are flexibly moving towards that puddle again. If there is water, there is definitely moss around. Pyo Wol's hands fumbled in the dark. Even though I'm not sure if I can eat it or not, to survive, this is what I have to do. Is it true that this sentence is so true and so accurate? In this situation, you have to eat to be able to live, so Pyo Wol closed his eyes and swallowed each piece of dirty moss. Before he could reach his stomach, when he passed his broken neck, he felt the taste of this thing. It's no different than chewing straw. If it doesn't affect your body, then eating is fine. Pyo Wol continues to dig through patches of moss to nourish his weak body. For a baby being 14 years old and specializing in begging, it probably won't be difficult. While eating, the male protagonist silently told himself that he had to survive no matter how he did it. In the end, it's unclear how many days passed. Gradually getting used to life here. Even though it was dark, he knew every step by heart. After searching every corner of this prison, the male protagonist is trying to consider. According to calculations, this is a square space with an area of about 9 square meters. Still a confirmation. Familiar with the fact that he was trapped and someone had deliberately swallowed him. While calculating other things, suddenly on the left the sound of the door opening rang out. His hearing was very sharp, so Pyo Wol immediately leaned over. In fact, the door was not open at all, only a small hole had just been pulled up. The light from outside illuminated the room and immediately became clearer. Because he hadn't been seen for so long, Pyo Wol's eyes squinted because he couldn't bear it. Even though it was difficult, he still had to move towards that direction no matter what, because there would definitely be someone. Just try a little more and you can touch that gap. From what you see, Pyo Wol only thinks this is a painting. After the bowl of rice was put in, then the small gap with the few rays of light went out. Following that, the male protagonist's mood quickly sank. Each tear of fear of this teenage child just kept flowing out. The space returned to its original terrible silence. However, the scent of food caught his attention. It turned out that that small gap was a place for outsiders to bring in food. After starving for a while, the person who kidnapped Pyo Wol certainly showed that he had some human mentality. Let's start. Immediately used his sense of smell to determine the taste of the food. In that small bowl of rice there was enough meat and fish as well as trash and definitely leftovers. I was thinking there are 5 types of food in my hand. There is no way one person can eat 5 types of food, so there must be more than one person here. Even though he is young, Pyo Wol's intelligence is also good. Not a few. With these thoughts, he is realizing that there are up to 5 people outside. They have been imprisoned for their own purposes, so it cannot be just me being locked up here. It's ineffective to just lock yourself in a space like this. Not sure if it's right or wrong, but this sounds very reasonable. Pyo Wol only noticed that there were 5 people guarding, but the purpose was I don't know what theirs is. If you can think like that, then it's impossible that countless other children were also taken. Surely they also have the same situation. Scene with Pyo Wol. That's not as important as what they brought people here for. Holding the bowl of rice up to his nostrils, he took a deep breath and knew that the food was very spicy and could be from 4 sources. Well, there's no need to think too much anymore. Since you have to eat, you need to eat to survive. I don't know if he will be released or not, but the male protagonist needs to do the same. Compared to eating moss, eating that leftover food is still good. From the darkness came the sound of munching. In less than 2 minutes that dirty bowl was thrown into a corner. So the problem of food for survival was solved, and here it is. It's also called a rather fortunate event in Pyo Wol's misfortune. After that, some more time passed without knowing how many days it was. The male protagonist was so used to life here, even though I can't accept that either. For now, in my head, I calculate that I've been in this place for about 4 months. Every day that corner group will open the small door and provide food once. Other than that, they didn't say a word. In this dark, cramped space, maintaining physical strength is essential. There's nothing to do. That's why Pyo Wol only knows how to kill time with this. Every day he practices until his body is exhausted. Falling into a difficult situation like this, it's impossible to go crazy and time is too much here. That said, some of the body's senses have become faster than ever. It seems like the male protagonist can see everything around and gradually adapt to that fierce darkness. Not only him but also insects carrying many dangerous toxins. Obviously, with this conditions like this are only suitable for those insects. On the right side suddenly a pair of bright red eyes appeared. Pyo Wol's feeling is that he only thinks they are centipedes. I felt like I was wandering around like every day. Suddenly the white body of the poisonous snake wrapped around his arm. Even normally, a person would be very afraid of this creature. The male lead's eyes became scared when he felt something clinging to him. In his mind he already knew what it was but he didn't dare to believe it. From within that deep darkness, the snake's defensive sound rang out. This is a small animal with quite special eyes that look exactly like other insects. The next thing it did was obvious to everyone. Knowing everything, this one opened its mouth wider and firmly stuck its two fast teeth into the male lead's arm. Instinctively, he also suddenly cried out in pain. Pyo Wol quickly removed it. The snake moved away, but at this moment the pain immediately rushed in. It was really painful to the point that the other arm was gradually changing color as it was poisoned. Everything was hot and felt. From the body now as if on fire. It is unclear whether this poison is life-threatening or not. Pyo Wol could only writhe and clench his arms as if he didn't want the poison to spread to his body. Things got even worse, veins began to appear all over his body. Not sure what things were going on. Where did this come from? It was most likely brought in by someone from outside. I don't know how much time had passed before the male lead gradually moved on. Another day passed and the small gap was opened. And a bowl of food brought in. After dropping it as usual, the opponent tightly closed the gap. Pyo Wol quickly grabbed it without making a sound. The body was still. There were terrible pains that numbed his bones. Looking at the pile of leftovers in front of him, the male lead couldn't breathe. He told himself he definitely couldn't die this way. Just like that, slurping sounds rang out continuously. Pyo Wol was too busy eating so he didn't notice the snake approaching. This time it was more gentle and didn't open its mouth to bite him anymore. After getting to know each other briefly, even if they don't like each other, they still have to live together. Even though he can't see anything, Pyo Wol can imagine the shape of the snake. It only has a few strange characteristics. Especially the red eyes and gray skin look very scary. I almost died from its poison. It seems like the body undergoes changes during the detoxification process. In fact, its eyes, the male protagonist, is now changing over time. He can see things in the dark and this is truly miraculous. In his mind, he understood that being bitten was definitely a thing. Good. The arm was about to feel again when the snake opened its mouth to threaten. I once heard that if the poisoned person is still alive, they will become stronger at some point. The male protagonist thinks that it can also happen to himself. The problem here is that not only will the ability to endure develop, but some changes will also occur in the body. To confirm this, you yourself will have to take another risk and let it bite. Immediately the poisoning phenomenon appeared, hot steam rising from the back of your hand, and this is evidence that the poison has penetrated into the body. A hot stream of heat ran through the trachea as if it were burning. The male protagonist felt regretful for doing this senseless thing, but it was different than before. Being bitten for the first time. Even though it was very painful, he could still control it. The eyes that were originally gentle have now gradually turned to a different color. Characteristics of animals: this animal is very dangerous. It has very sensitive prey-sensing organs. Even though it lives in the dark, the snake is a very skilled hunter. Its way of approaching its prey is it comes from controlling with sound and killing with poison. Even so, they never act too recklessly. After finishing their meal they will never try to hunt. Catch the insects that gather around. The male protagonist doesn't know how effective it is even though he has been poisoned several times. However, he discovers and creates a very special weapon. Mine. Maybe this is a very useful and important thing during the time he was stuck in the cell. Being bitten by snakes every day, even though he knew his body had developed resistance, he was not satisfied with the level of. Then time gradually passed until a few days later. The vibrations rang out, causing the whole room to be affected. From the darkness, Pyo Wol unconsciously felt sense that something is about to happen. It seems that not only his room but also all other rooms. The male lead changes completely with red eyes like snake. For a moment, he revealed an extremely unbelievable face because the door that had always been tightly closed had now been opened. He began to walk out of this evil place and look around. Outside is a large and dark hallway. Even though it's right next door, you still have to walk 20 steps to reach the next room. Because of that, the male protagonist understood why he could not detect the surrounding sounds. With the curiosity of a child, he immediately opened that door. Before acknowledging the incident, the sense of smell has begun to check. This is a terrible stench and has stimulated the senses. It turns out that this child could not stand it, so he died a long time ago. Can't see anything, but the male protagonist also understands that the foul smell is that of a decomposing body. Although it cannot be accurately identified, basically looking at the bones, they are probably the same age. After that, he also went to work to check some other rooms and the scene was the same. These things motivated the male protagonist to get out of here faster than ever. His feet walked quickly. Step faster, and when you reach a certain range, you have to stop. Right in front of you right now there is a huge iron door blocking it. If you look closely, the door has been removed. So Pyo Wol decided to just push it to see if he could continue or not. The heavy creaking sound was opened by his weak hands. After using all his strength, there was a strong force and everything was there. Right before his eyes. Pyo Wol became surprised and speechless because there were a number of other children here and of course survived. From the darkness he sensed a boy and a girl, and they also turned their heads to look. Not sure how the three of them would greet each other or plan to leave. The sound of wind blowing into the hallway like that wanted to wake Pyo Wol up. He was still staring at the two strangers. The other person was busy talking, so he was in no hurry to speak up. At first, the male lead tried to evaluate each person individually and he was quite sure. They can't adapt to the perfect darkness like me. Ignoring these people for now, he immediately moved forward and looked at the surrounding rooms. If his eyes weren't "if you can look good, then it must be very good." Each step sounded and it was clear that they had to pay attention to Pyo Wol's actions. The situation in the rooms he had just entered was exactly the same as before. Because she couldn't stand her curiosity, the girl started asking who Pyo Wol was. Where did he come from? He and I are the only ones living here. She was looking this way but couldn't see herself in the dark. It looked like she was the only one covered in darkness. After thinking about it, the male lead also introduced his name and said that he had been imprisoned in a prison cell recently. Hearing the answer, the two realized that there must be many people locked up. Again, Pyo Wol didn't care much and he immediately asked the other person's full name. The girl stood up and said she was So Yo Wol and the person next to her was Song Cheon Woo. If you know this information, the male protagonist also turned his gaze towards the back where a long hallway stretched. This was evidence that another area would be opened, so he immediately asked them both to follow him. Because Yo Wol and Cheon Woo couldn't see in the dark, they couldn't recognize the images that the male lead saw. After receiving the question of where to go, he bluntly guessed yes. Looks like there are many places like this. After following and seeing the iron door in front of her, the girl started to show fear when this was true. No need to panic. They didn't suspect anything, so the male lead kept repeating his words asking them to follow. Their hearing is very good, but moving too fast is also a difficult thing. Yo Wol asked Cheon Woo to hold his hand for safety. Then the two slowly followed Pyo Wol's back. In fact, in this quite dangerous place, the male lead did not want to have to near someone and he was worried about his own safety. After walking for a while, the next door opened. Inside there were 5 survivors and they were also looking very surprised. Just like that, the group of people proactively got to know each other and Pyo Wol continued to observe. Unlike where he lived, no one here starved to death. The only thing especially they still died, but the cause was suicide. There are more bowls and food here than at my place. Are they that discriminatory? Why can such discrimination between regions occur? While thinking about this, Yo Wol called out Pyo Wol's voice. The girl began to explain that these people were also arrested here at the same time as us. Then the other 5 people also proactively introduced his full name to the male lead. In fact, he doesn't care about such things and just continues to move forward. Also from this incident, the people behind him also took the initiative. Followed. However, they kept whispering about the male lead's different abilities. From the end of the hallway, as usual, an iron door appeared. Because there was no need to be on guard, the male protagonist immediately pushed it open. As soon as he opened it, bright lights appeared. Because he was used to the darkness, the people behind him all had to use his hand to cover his eyes. Pyo Wol also had the same expression, but he understood that everyone was still underground. We had been underground for so long that even a torch was enough. Enough to make everyone blind. It took a while for the male lead to get used to the light. His pupils dilated and his eyes began to widen in surprise. Everyone else was "I can't stand it," and they certainly won't either after seeing this scene. From the front it can be clearly seen that a manor was built very deliberately. No need knowing whether it was dangerous or not, the group still followed the male lead towards it. Pyo Wol proactively opened a door to the room to see if there was any problem. There was no one here. Lived and Yo Wol was asking what was going on, but it was as if it was obvious that the construction of the rooms was very urgent. Also because of this incident, all the pillars were uncertain, definitely according to the male lead's eyes. They did it very hastily and the house was just made for show. The interior is also really sketchy. Looking at everything around to calculate math, a voice rang out, making him turn his head to look. It wasn't Yo Wol's voice, but this person was Yi Min with very special looking silver hair. There was no need to say hello. The daughter also introduced her name and promised that from now on she would take care of Pyo Wol. After hearing this, the male protagonist seemed very surprised and had too many questions as to why. Contrast with the story. At that moment, Yi Min came closer because for the first time he saw Pyo Wol's special face and eyes. The copper from above the male lead's sunken eyelids began to turn a soft red color, without knowing it. Is it because of the torch or not? It created a mysterious feeling that made Yi Min very excited. As soon as he found out that his pupils were red, he understood that it must have been a case of being bitten by a baby. That's why, in a place like this, being different from everyone around you is not good at all. You look like you don't know, so it's definitely because you came here, that's why. Such a phenomenon has happened. This is a word that helps him confirm that being bitten by a snake and having his eyes change is correct. Feeling that the other person has too many thoughts, Yi Min continued to ask what the male protagonist was thinking about. All in all, the girl told this new friend that he looked very different from other children. Pyo Wol stared at Yi Min's adorable face with a question as to why. He didn't say anything but just showed a very innocent smile. I just felt like that because we all looked very confused, but just there is a guy who is very calm. The two were talking like that when suddenly Yo Wol and Jianghu came over. This little girl also kept asking why they were both looking at each other for so long like that. So, the explanation for this is that Yi Min just wanted to talk about random things. The other person started looking at the male lead and Yi Min suspiciously. That only lasted for a while. And he also spoke up. The other kids have decided to go together from now on, so what are you two going to do? Actually, in a place full of dangers like this, gathering together and ensuring each other's safety is very necessary. Yo Wol was thinking for sure that both of them would go with her, and even Jianghu nodded as if he wanted that to happen. On the contrary, Pyo Wol shook his head as if refusing because he wanted to consider the situation first. Receiving that answer, the other person thought that you guys don't plan to go with us or something. I'm just saying I want to wait to see how things turn out. Maybe the male lead has been kept in the dark alone for too long, so he doesn't want to get along with them yet. It's a pretty normal thing, so Yo Wol is no longer confused. If that's the case, then feel free to come find me if you change your mind. After finishing talking with the male lead, he continued asking, does Yi Min want to or not? Thinking for a moment, the answer is yes, I will go with you guys. Going together will be easier to survive than going alone. Pyo Wol has been silent for a long time and he has some thoughts to comment on these new friends. They have been isolated from each other for a long time in the dark and they don't look good at all. This is actually very reasonable because up to now the male protagonist doesn't even believe in himself, let alone others. He quietly entered the darkness and calculated that he would have to observe the children from afar. After a while, the children gathered together. From that time on, people formed many different groups. About the most important group and with a large number of members, that is Pyo Wol and Jianghu's group. The second group with an equally large number of members is Kong Il's group. Yum Il Yong's next group includes the following members: Rogue and Old-Fashioned. In last place and nothing stands out is Go Young San's group. As for the male lead, he is still alone in a group and doesn't want to be related to anyone. Everyone is talking a lot about Pyo Wol. The kids say that they heard that this person was in an area where no one survived. So why was he able to stay while others died? Couldn't it have been you? I killed them all, and the truth is that I don't belong to any group. In fact, there are no good words for the male lead because he is so different. Also because of that, Pyo Wol understand that no matter where you are, the world of big fish swallowing small fish is still the same. I don't have time to pay attention to those people right now. There are many urges in my heart. I want to leave here, so I need to go and look very carefully at everything around. A very decisive thought is that this house must have been built only recently. Look at these piles of moss. Then maybe the underground place was built a long time ago. Only recently has someone used it. Whoever they are, they really have a huge amount of wealth. Pyo Wol bluntly guessed that if a place like this was created, its owner would definitely not be a normal person. Suddenly, noises began to be heard above the dome. It could be said more precisely, up there is a door because the light from the outside shines down. It's not clear if it's someone lying down or if something else is happening. There are no people and nothing is happening. But only a very large basket was brought down. The children began to gather and waited at the place where the position was being lowered. We could see more clearly inside the basket. That huge basket is full of food and drinks. Because we've been here for a long time and the taste of the food is gradually disappearing, everyone is very excited. The group was about to compete in choosing when a dirty hand reached out to stop them. Pyo Wol and Jianghu did not let anyone touch this basket. With such action, the remaining children became angry. Why don't we divide it equally for everyone? This is a very powerful word and Pyo Wol doesn't want anyone to compete for this. The other team members all looked at the team leader with an expectant expression. They understood that without the voice of the group leader, action cannot be taken. Clearly, in this goddamn evil place, a miniature society has formed. Pyo Wol proposed that the representative of each group would receive the share of himself and the parts of the people in the group. It seems like the children are forgetting Pyo Wol's presence. He raised his voice to attract attention, causing everyone to stop. Food is important to everyone and not just the male lead. After coming out from the dark corner, Pyo Wol wanted to receive his share like the other groups. He didn't need anyone to agree. Come get food. Before this action, Yum Il Yong was not very satisfied. Being a hot-tempered person, this bad boy did not allow Pyo Wol to receive food. As for the others, yes. You might be afraid of this guy, but the male lead isn't. No one can arbitrarily take food from the basket without our permission. Yum Il Yong said that everything is in the basket will be managed by its group. It's truly a miniature society when everyone wants to be in power and command everyone. Of course that makes the male protagonist unhappy at all. He pushed its thin arm away and then raised his fist towards. It's not really a punch, but his hand squeezed that face tightly and then pressed hard on one eye. The scene was too horrifying as blood and gore splattered everywhere, making everyone watching become scared. Even though he has a smaller body, in terms of endurance and physical strength, the male lead is superior. That was proven when he pressed down hard on the body that was a little taller than him. Tell me what you said. This time, Pyo Wol is no longer calm. Because the immediate benefit is too great. With one hand he strangled Yum Il Yong tightly and with the other hand he gouged out Yum Il Yong's eye. He couldn't speak or breathe but only moaned. Because it was too painful. The group members all tried to stop them and used vulgar words to curse Pyo Wol. It seemed like they were fearless so he squeezed tighter. Yum Il Yong felt like he was about to pee in his pants because his eye was gouged out. Because he was so young, the children didn't dare to come close. Gradually, the children learned about Pyo Wol when he was young. This guy became really angry because he was robbed of his food. To thoroughly handle this matter, Pyo Wol had to come forward. Please leave him alone, this person won't be able to answer. Pyo Wol thinks there's no need to listen to him. This person, he must have understood the problem after you did that. Yum Il Yong remembered that no one would dare to block the male lead's food anymore. The remaining groups also agreed because just saw the strength of this strange person. Feeling that things like this are reasonable, Pyo Wol no longer strangles Yum Il Yong. Black on him for touching one. Snakes are extremely cruel. But we have to stop in here. If we don't do that, we won't be able to do that. If we keep being humble, we will probably be overwhelmed by others. After the pain gradually subsides, Yum Il Yong grimacing his face, he pointed out that Pyo Wol was a bastard for daring to do that. The male lead looked indifferent and promised that if he wanted, he would destroy the other eye to balance it if he liked. Listen, having received that threat, this insolent guy had no words to respond, so he just left and distributed the food to others. After that, everything calmed down and everyone went back to their place and diligently enjoyed what was called food. Pyo Wol sat and ate in a very high position, allowing him to easily observe the situation. The actions before that were also a test to filter out the children who were responsible. It's been like that from the beginning, and I'm sure it will continue to happen until they reach their goal, and many children will die along the way. Pyo Wol predicted whether he would eventually be their opponent or not. Then he remained silent and tried to look at each person in the group below. How have you been lately? It's still okay even after becoming everyone's rival, but Yum Il Yong's voice rang out. After doing so, a lot of kids left Yum Il Yong's group. If that had happened, this girl's group would definitely have become a big group. I thought you didn't pay attention to this since you kept your distance from everyone here, but I guess you've always been watching us. Just as much as you care about us, so I'm still watching everyone. When it comes to these things, the male lead also has to pay attention to the person standing next to him. When distributing food to everyone in the group, she is the one who eats the least. Best. This is the reason why the other children are so loyal to Yum Il Yong. You still live in the gloomy room just because the other children are wary, right? It turns out that the team leader also knew the male lead's whereabouts a long time ago. Living in that place was quite suitable because he was also used to the dark. One more convenient thing is that the male protagonist wants to be bitten by a snake to increase his ability to withstand poison. Because the bite no longer hurts, I guess no matter how much I think, I can deal with it. Yum Il Yong is wanting Pyo Wol to join his group instead of fighting on his own. Didn't you say you would wait to see how things turn out? While the two were talking, the sound from the dome started to ring and everyone understood that it was time to eat. Kong Il spoke up and requested that no one have the right to touch this basket. If you don't want to fall to your death after cutting the rope while it's rising, then don't do that. After looking at everything in the basket, Jianghu and he both made worried faces. Food was also sent, but the quantity was not as much as the first time. Pyo Wol's expression now also became disappointed, but the male lead seemed to know this in advance. I don't know what it will be like, but the food fight has already begun. Manhwa is a boy who tried to overcome everything to get into Yum Il Yong's group. In the group, this person has the smallest body but in return is very resilient. However, it is difficult to understand that from the night before until the next morning, he died. The people in the group are all very angry when he learned this news and promised that if he found the culprit, he would take revenge. However, saying that, everyone knows what the reason is. The reason this person died just because he was too weak. The strong will always exist and the weaker will be eliminated. Even the male protagonist himself will be the same. If he doesn't get stronger, will definitely suffer the same fate as Manhwa. Seeing the death of someone in the group also aroused anger in the hearts of Jianghu and Pyo Wol. There were traces of food above. This means he was attacked before he could finish the rest of the food. That's so miserable, I'll kill whoever did that to him. Jianghu was angry as if he knew the culprit, he would definitely punish him. In contrast to this expression, the team leader seems strangely calm. It doesn't matter who did this, what's really more important is that one of our followers is dead. We need to take revenge the same way he did to the boy. Obviously, there must be someone next. The other and weakest groups will also have to follow Manhwa to hell. Pyo Wol understands this and he is also waiting to see how Yum Il Yong's group will act. It can be said that starting from this incident, the war to maintain position and food will also start from here. In the end, the weakest member of Go Young San's group was found dead, and this was only the beginning. Every night that passed until morning, one more person died. Just like that, each group of Il Yong and Go Young San had more people die. Not only that, but Kong Il's group also suffered the same fate and many more members lost. All the children began to suspect each other and became wild like demons during the famine. Before that, Pyo Wol was used to eating moss growing from stone walls. You didn't all never get caught up in that war for food and drink, but I'll never get used to the taste of this horrible thing. If those kids can also eat rock moss, how sure is that? Unwanted death will not happen. Right now in the tunnel corridor where Pyo Wol is, there are a few people entering inside with many whispers. All actions. Pyo Wol knows all of this because his senses are extremely sharp. There are about 3 or 4 people wandering around in the dark with only a small torch. In the deep darkness. Hey, the male lead already knows who he is. I know they can't go any further and must have come here with bad intentions. From there, Il Yong's voice can be heard in your house. Surely this is the right place, right? It turned out that he and his accomplices were looking for the male lead's residence to take revenge for the food-sharing incident last time. According to a junior, he followed him and saw him with his own eyes. Return by this way. Your big brother seemed upset because he unfairly lost an eye just because he fought over some potatoes. I killed 2 people after that fight, and this is the moment perfect to take revenge on Pyo Wol. It's true that this guy was bad from the outside until he got in here. Killing people is not simple and also quite difficult for a child in prison. New age. The nonsense thoughts in his head were immediately interrupted when a member of the group cried out in pain. It seemed like something had bitten his ankle, so he unconsciously lost his balance and fell over to the ground. Everyone knew that the culprit was the snake, and after biting him, he immediately left. Because he could not stand the poison, this person foamed at the mouth and died. Realizing there was danger, Il Yong warned the rest to be careful. What he didn't know was that another guy had been dragged away by the male lead. The torch fell and now there were only 2 left of the 4. What a miserable look on Il's face. Yong became angry because he couldn't do anything. He screamed and cursed Pyo Wol and wanted him to show up. Honestly, it was too stupid to enter the male lead's territory without being able to saw anything. Hidden in the darkness, his toned arms wrapped around his neck and squeezed the remaining junior tightly. Hearing the noise, Il Yong quickly turned around to look at. Pyo Wol doesn't want to do anything yet, he just wants to show off his strength to scare them and make them run away. There was already a purpose to kill, so it's unclear how Yum Il Yong will handle this situation. In front of the small light of the torch, the male lead's crimson eyes appeared. Yum Il Yong still did not take any action because he did not expect this to happen. And he has the right mouth, so he only makes threats and requests to quickly let people go. How can those empty words sway him, because Pyo Wol understands that if he tightens his grip even more, he will definitely be a bastard? This guy will die immediately. If you do that, you will definitely become a murderer. Otherwise, if you don't do it, it's obvious that both will come back and eliminate you, which is really a dilemma. Without thinking any more, Pyo Wol snapped, squeezed his neck and then twisted it back, causing Jianghu to die on the spot in front of Il Yong's surprise. Sooner or later, you have to kill someone, so sooner or later, it's up to you. Nothing important. You bastard, you dare to kill my junior, I will deal with you. Il Yong's angry words just sounded so weak and unreasonable when Pyo Wol would kill him anyway. The situation became more tense, and when Il Yong saw his face so calm after killing that person, he couldn't keep his temper. He screamed and rushed in as if he wanted to eat Pyo Wol too. So, both hands clenched tightly and punched continuously, but this was night and darkness. Just those 2 things alone were too disadvantageous for this guy. Why was he able to fight in such a place? I'm not sure, but it's probably because a teenager doesn't have that kind of intention. Il Yong kept fighting and no longer realized that Pyo Wol was no longer here. It took a while for him to only then did I understand where the enemy had gone. Just like that, the space returned to the familiar silence of this place. Il Yong pointed out to Pyo Wol that you're a rat, don't hide anymore and come out quickly. From behind the male lead's back, a bad voice confirmed that this time you didn't just lose an eye. I know it well. Whose voice was this? but because Il Yong was so scared, he unconsciously rushed forward. After panting for several consecutive times, he started to look back. As soon as he saw the red eyes, that coolness is enough to understand what fate will be like. Pyo Wol slowly approached this bad child step by step, making him tremble even more worried. Il Yong didn't see anything and he only heard the sound of footsteps. With each step he took, he gulped more and his fear increased a bit. Not sure how Pyo Wol would kill this guy. Sweat flowed from his forehead, pouring into his head a mess of thoughts. Then from that pile there was a suitable thought, so Il Yong raised his hands to stop it. This kid's mouth mumbled the two words cooperation, making Pyo Wol squint his eyes curiously. You can't fight back with those kids, so let's cooperate together. Yowol's group and Jianghu can't fight back either. This is somewhat reasonable, so the male lead also has his own thoughts. Suppose he had to fight back alone. Even dozens of kids from those groups won't be able to do it. If you don't like it, I'll be your subordinate. Unlike those guys who just died, I'm actually very useful. Right now the two of you are facing each other and those red eyes are glaring at Il Yong. I know that at first you will listen, but in the end you will do it like this. Because in order to save your cheap life, Il Yong promised that he would never do that. As soon as he said that, as soon as he finished, Pyo Wol immediately bent down and grabbed his fist tightly in his direction. Before he died, he only had time to look down. With a bang, his teeth and lips mixed up, not sure if this punch killed him. Okay. Il Yong gasped before he could complain. Pyo Wol immediately circled behind him. He continued to use the old trick of wrapping his hand around his throat and then using force to squeeze his throat. Several gurgling sounds rang out, but Il Yong could no longer see anything. Tears and snot streamed down his eyes and he continuously moaned two words, begging for his life. A few minutes passed and he died. Actually, this was an instant death. Feeling that the other person was definitely dead, Pyo Wol let go and his whole body was now trembling. Killing fellow humans is not a thing. What's so funny, but with the mentality of a child, it's too cruel. The reason I killed this guy is because his strength is still too weak right now. If he confronts the other group, he will need to be stronger. In this miniature society, survival is a priority, but for food and drink, Pyo Wol may have a solution. In that endless night, the male protagonist gradually disappeared and the Il Yong's body just lay cold in this dark hallway. Then Il Yong's group disappeared one by one. Everyone who saw it probably understood that this disappearance was because of him and himself. My close friends personally caused this. Speaking of the culprit, the group leaders of the remaining groups all know who did it. Yowol's mind was pondering why the other team did it. So strong and must have killed a total of 4 people himself. Contrary to those thoughts, Kong Il's group right now doesn't want to confront Pyo Wol. At Go's place, Young San believes that the male lead's nature is cunning and extremely stubborn. Does he know exactly what he has to do to make everyone know and fear him? There is another important thing going on at this time. Food distribution point for everyone is already a problem beyond the limit of what can be solved. Of course, all the children have to fight with each other to keep each morsel of food. In the end, everyone will becoming a killer. This is all Go Young San guessed. He killed Il Yong, the most powerful person among the children, and surely no one will dare to touch him again. After thinking about it, the boy also turned to look at the people in the group. Don't ever think about doing anything with Pyo Wol and don't come close. What's worse than someone who doesn't have anything to protect? Actually, this is a bit redundant because everyone knows that if they touch the male lead, they will definitely receive death. Suddenly, one of the group sent to monitor the situation outside also rushed back to report. His appearance was haphazard, as if he had just lost his food. There were 2 people in the red house to the north. I think they were the people who were kicked out of Yowol's group. I heard the story. Go Young San has to ask again and again to see if this has happened or not. The more important thing is to ask if their food is still available or is it gone. In hand there's a potato for both of us and they'll eat it all if we don't get there quickly. Hearing the food, the people in the group's eyes lit up and wanted Big Brother to go there with them. Killing someone just for a potato is a very shameful reason, but in this situation, it still has to be done. Go Young San ordered all his juniors prepare weapons to go to the northern house. Right now two girls are sharing food with each other and neither wants to eat because they both want to give it to the other. Faced with this situation, Go Young-san had been watching for a long time. They had to swallow their saliva because they saw that potato was about to go into that girl's mouth. Seeing the food, the children looked like starving ghosts. So, they rushed forward and the group leader couldn't stop them anymore. Just like that, one by one, they rushed forward and had to kill two girls to get a potato. The loud screams made the children more scared than ever. Even though Go Young-san tried to stop his members, what could he do with food in front of him? Just like that, they chased each other around the house and the scene looked really confusing. Because this happened quite suddenly, Go Young-san is feeling quite strange because of the location. Being in this place is relatively disadvantageous for my group. After running to a pre-planned location, a girl whistled and made a sign. That's all. It's enough to understand that Yowol's group had planned it from the beginning. From the windows inside the house, countless other children with sticks in their hands rushed out. Their group leader deliberately stopped them, blocking, and now it's the same, but it's too late. Not only fighting, but taking the lives of other groups is a very important thing. That can ensure the number as well as ensuring the safety of the remaining group. It's unbelievable that just because of a potato, these children had to die in a cold place without even knowing what the place was. Those images continuously caught Go Young-san's eyes, making him not know what to do anymore. Even though he knew this was a trap, it was too late to warn everyone to retreat. Because right behind this group leader, there were about 4 guys with sticks in their hands rushing towards them. They surrounded them and still haven't taken action because they need to be more cautious with the group leader. With just one potato, how can we catch such a big fish? This is the voice of team leader Pyo Wol. Looks like we can reduce the number of mosquito nets needed for eating today. Seeing the team leader when the enemy appeared, Go Young-san started to frown. It's so miserable, why do you guys dare to do that? This is also a redundant question, and people who are about to die often do not know how to cherish their lives and their words. Even though he was angry, Go Young-san had to slowly calm down his anger. I'm angry. The boy asked Pyo Wol if he could die like everyone else in the group, but it's impossible. I also really want to accept your request, but we don't have that much food left. Would you be satisfied if you killed everyone? If you sit there. In my position, I would do the same. After this cold answer, Pyo Wol turned around and left and asked to kill everyone in Go Young-san's group. Upon receiving the group leader's order, the remaining kids swung their sticks and knew what was going to happen in advance. These barbaric scenes that only adults think they can do, but now they can't. All of them are just children at the age of 15 or 16, but they can kill each other. It's too horrible. Terrible. Because of this incident, we also understand how sinister Yowol's mind is. To ensure the safety of her group, she had to choose to kill harming other people. Right now, he also looked up at Go Young-san of the manor and knew that Pyo Wol was closely observing the situation. He couldn't feel surprised because of everything that happened. There is a good reason for something like this. In addition, there is still another thought related to the large manor. Battles that use terrain include many different ways. Various shortcuts and tricks. Arrange locations so that as long as there is a competent guard, entering will be impossible. This is another version of a place that exists, or we can say a copy. The people who made this place want us to get used to it and get used to killing people. One day they will lure us in again in terrains like this. If there is a house that big, it means that this place is the manor of a large family or someone with considerable influence. The consequences will be very serious. Big if they intend to attack recklessly. This is why they take advantage of us, because they only see us as tools that can be thrown away after each use. They wants to transform all of these children into hell and completely destroy their nature. Pyo Wol doesn't know who they are yet, but with his speculations, he understands the high possibility that those people want to transform the children. I accidentally became an assassin here. Il Yong pointed out to Pyo Wol that you're a rat, don't hide anymore and come out quickly. From behind the male lead's back, a bad voice confirmed that this time you didn't just lose an eye. I know it well whose voice was this, but because Il Yong was so scared, he unconsciously rushed forward. After panting for several consecutive times, he also turned to look. As soon as he saw the red eyes, that coolness is enough to understand what fate will be like. Pyo Wol slowly approached this bad child step by step, making him tremble even more worried. Il Yong didn't see anything and he only heard the sound of footsteps. With each step he took, he gulped more and his fear increased a bit. Not sure how Pyo Wol would kill this guy. Sweat flowed from his forehead, pouring into his head a mess of thoughts. Then from that pile there was a suitable thought, so Il Yong raised his hands to stop it. This kid's mouth mumbled the two words cooperation, making Pyo Wol squint his eyes curiously. You can't fight back with those kids, so let's cooperate together. Yowol's group and Jianghu can't fight back either. This is somewhat reasonable, so the male lead also has his own thoughts. Suppose he had to fight back alone. Even dozens of kids from those groups won't be able to do it. If you don't like it, I'll be your subordinate. Unlike those guys who just died, I'm really useful. Right now the two of you are facing each other and those red eyes are glaring at Il Yong. I know that at first you will listen, but in the end you will do it like this. Because in order to save your cheap life, Il Yong promised that he would never do that. As soon as he said that, as soon as he finished, Pyo Wol immediately bent down and grabbed his fist tightly in his direction. Before he died, he only had time to look down. With a bang, his teeth and lips mixed up, not sure if this punch killed him. Okay. Il Yong gasped before he could complain. Pyo Wol immediately circled behind him. He continued to use the old trick of wrapping his hand around his throat and then using force to squeeze his throat. Several gurgling sounds rang out, but Il Yong could no longer see anything. Tears and snot streamed down his eyes and he continuously moaned two words, begging for his life. A few minutes passed and he died. Actually, this was an instant death. Feeling that the other person was definitely dead, Pyo Wol let go and his whole body was now trembling. Killing fellow humans is not a thing. What's so funny, but with the mentality of a child, it's too cruel. The reason I killed this guy is because his strength is still too weak right now. If he confronts the other group, he will need to be stronger. In this miniature society, survival is a priority, but for food and drink, Pyo Wol may have a solution. In that endless night, the male protagonist gradually disappeared and the Il Yong's body just lay cold in this dark hallway. Then Il Yong's group disappeared one by one. Everyone who saw it probably understood that this disappearance was because of him and himself. My close friends personally caused this. Speaking of the culprit, the group leaders of the remaining groups all know who did it. Yowol's mind was pondering why the other team did it. So strong and must have killed a total of 4 people himself. Contrary to those thoughts, Kong Il's group right now does not want to confront Pyo Wol. In Go Young San's place, they think that the male lead's nature is cunning and extremely stubborn. Does he know exactly what he has to do to make people know and fear him? There's another important thing going on at this time. Distribution point eating for everyone was a problem beyond the limit of being able to be solved. Of course, all the children had to compete with each other to keep every morsel of food. In the end, this is all Go Young San speculated. He killed Il Yong, the most powerful person among the children, and surely no one would dare to touch him. After thinking about it, the boy also turned to look at the people in the group. Don't ever think about doing anything with Pyo Wol and don't come close. What's worse than someone who doesn't have anything to protect? Actually, this is a bit redundant because everyone knows that if they touch the male lead, they will definitely receive death. Suddenly, one of the group sent to monitor the situation outside also rushed back to report. His appearance was haphazard, as if he had just lost his food. There were 2 people in the red house to the north. I think they were the people who were kicked out of Yowol's group. I heard the story. Go Young San has to ask again and again to see if this has happened or not. The more important thing is to ask if their food is still available or is it gone. In hand there's a potato for both of us and they'll eat it all if we don't get there quickly. Hearing the food, the people in the group's eyes lit up and wanted Big Brother to go there with them. Killing someone just for a potato is a very shameful reason, but in this situation, it still has to be done. Go Young San ordered all his juniors prepare weapons to go to the northern house. Right now 2 girls are sharing food with each other and neither wants to eat because they both want to give it to the other. Faced with this situation, Go Young San has been watching for a long time. They had to swallow their saliva because they saw that potato was about to go into that girl's mouth. Seeing the food, the children looked like starving ghosts. So, they rushed forward and the group leader couldn't stop them anymore. Just like that, one by one they rushed forward and had to kill 2 girls to get a potato. The loud screams made the children more scared than ever. Even though Go Young-san tried to stop his members, what could he do with food in front of him? Just like that, they chased each other around the house and the scene looked really confusing. Because this happened quite suddenly, Go Young-san is feeling quite strange because of the location. Being in this place is relatively disadvantageous for my group. After running to a pre-planned location, a girl whistled and made a sign. That's all. It's enough to understand that Pyo Wol's group had planned it from the beginning. From the windows inside the house, countless other children with sticks in their hands rushed out. Their group leader deliberately stopped them, blocking, and now it's the same, but it's too late. Not only fighting, but taking the lives of other groups is a very important thing. That can ensure the number as well as ensuring the safety of the remaining group. It's unbelievable that just because of a potato, these children had to die in a cold place without even knowing what the place was. Those images continuously caught Go Young-san's eyes, making him not know what to do anymore. Even though he knew this was a trap, there was no time left to warn everyone to retreat. Because right behind this group leader, there were about 4 guys with sticks in their hands rushing towards them. They surrounded them and still haven't taken action because they need to be more cautious with the group leader. With just 1 potato, how can we catch such a big fish? This is the voice of team leader Pyo Wol. Looks like we can reduce the number of mosquito nets needed for eating today. Seeing the team leader when the enemy appeared, Go Young-san started to frown. It's so miserable, why do you guys dare to do that? This is also a redundant question, and people who are about to die often do not know how to cherish their lives and their words. Even though he was angry, Go Young-san had to slowly calm down his anger. I'm angry. The boy asked Pyo Wol if he could die like everyone else in the group, but it's impossible. I also really want to accept your request, but we don't have that much food left. Would you be satisfied if you killed everyone? If you sit there, in my position, I would do the same. After this cold answer, Pyo Wol turned around and left and asked to kill everyone in Go Young-san's group. Upon receiving the group leader's order, the remaining kids swung their sticks and knew what was going to happen in advance. These barbaric scenes that only adults think they can do, but now they can't. All of them are just children at the age of 15 or 16, but they can kill each other. It's too horrible. Terrible. Because of this incident, we also understand how sinister Pyo Wol's mind is. To ensure the safety of her group, she had to choose to kill harming other people.